Shalom, shalom. Welcome, ladies. This is week number 57. You know, I was thinking of that 57, and I'm thinking, oh man, 52, that's a week. We blew past a year already. I just find that absolutely amazing. So, but I wanted to, we're going back to the book of Enoch because, I had this kind of revelation come to me on Enoch, and I wanted to make sure to share it with you guys before. But because I know I want to move on to some other topics or, kind of broaden the teaching a little bit more in other areas, but we're sticking with Enoch this week. So we're in chapter 60 and 61. And the language in these chapters 60 is like, it's one of those things, those chapters that people will just kind of throw up their hands and say, what's this guy talking about? Angels of, talked about angels of snow, angels of frost, angels of fog, angels of dew. I mean, that just really doesn't make sense to us. It's not scientific language. It's not necessarily super spiritual language. We don't know how they're applying it. So, but the point is we understand that everything, this is the whole point, my whole point with Enoch, that everything is to be pinned on the tree of life, because that is the foundation. That is what they're all working with. All these prophets who are priests and scribes. This is the formula. So, understanding the separate, understanding the letters, understanding the relationships. And that's what Enoch's doing. So we're going to try to pin this on the tree of life. But let's just take in verse, so let's go to verse Enoch 60, 14 through 15. There's this incredible, let me do this so we can get some different colors. So we're going to do Enoch 60 and 61. And then in verse 60, now I gotta get my glasses. In verse 60 and it's verse 10. It's verse 11. Okay. So then we're going to zero in on verse 60, verse 11. And it says something really, again, very enigmatic. It says here, then the other angel who went with me spoke to me and showed me that which was in secret. And we know in secret, that just sort of means it's the deeper level understanding. You really have to be privy to how the words are used as they're going deeper and deeper into deeper spiritual matters and spiritual understanding. Again, the thing is, we can't hear, taste, touch, or spirit. I mean, that's what God is, he says. So somehow these words we have to take and we have to translate. And praise God, my point is we don't have to make it up. It's already been given to us, the keys to the kingdom. We just have to rediscover it. So, and what started this was that I was looking for something else, and I came across some of my folders on Philo. And Philo is great. I used to read him a lot in the beginning because he was first of all, Philo was a Jewish philosopher, really a Kabbalist, whose works have come back to, they're called extant, meaning all of his writings are still available today. He somehow miraculously was not lost. I mean, so many books and things we've lost. But Philo and Josephus, who are two contemporaries of Yeshua, this is factual, this is documented, nobody really argues this, even the Jews acknowledge, and that he was a contemporary. So, and I believe, personally, again, that Philo was a believer in the ministry of Yeshua and saw it. When you read his writings in totality, he totally understood it. But what he does do is sometimes you get lucky and he just sort of defines something right there in the sentence and you go, oh, I don't have to guess anymore. That's pretty specific. And he does it here. Okay. So in verse 11, he starts out about the angel who spoke to him what was in secret, right? The first and the last, which is in the heavens on high. Oh, you guys, I'm so lame. I'm sorry. I'm lame. We're doing verse 14. Sorry, I'm in the wrong Let's go to, let me just change that. We're doing 60 verse 14. So let me go down to that. So it says 14. Well, let's start in 13. I'm just going to read it. And peals of thunder according to the places where they fall, and all the divisions that are made among the flashes of lightning, and flashes of lightning, that lightning may take place and their hosts obey. I'm like, what is he talking about? Okay. For the thunder has places of rest for the awaiting of its peal, and thunder and lightning are inseparable. And although not one, but both go together through the spirit and are not separated. For when the lightning flashes, the thunder utters its voice, and the spirit causes a rest during the flash and divides equally between them. For the treasury of their flashes is like sand. But I'm going to stop there. Okay, so just let me pull out a couple of the enigmatic language here, okay? So like I've been saying, and now I'm more and more convinced, and my understanding now, when you understand parts, we're not on a literal level, that's a given. And we have tons of hints here that these words are being used on something deeper. So we're into the sod level, but it says here, thunder and lightning are inseparable. Now, when you've read Broadway, and I have taught on this, and I think I mentioned it last week, these we can immediately plug into Sephiroth, okay? That's the first thing. So for the thunder has places of rest for the awaiting of its peal. All right. And thunder and lightning are inseparable. Now, thunder, what is the noise? And it's funny because when I grew up, in big thunderstorms, we grew up with very loud. You ever had a nor'easter? The thunder and the lightning can get really intense and really scary. And I remember the phrase my parents would hear, people would say, oh, it's the angels are bowling up in heaven. The angels are just having a big ruckus up there. That's why we're hearing all this thunder and lightning. Well, in a sense, there's an element of truth to that, in the sense, because thunder is equated to voice. It just said that. And it's equated to sound. Now, who do we know? What is the Sephiroth that is the voice of God, that is sound? We know that to be Bina. Right? The Sephiroth of Bina is sound, is voice. So whenever you see that, you just kind of plug it in. We know we're talking about thunder. We're talking about the voice, which is the female, all right, which we know is Bina. From all of the writings, it's all pieced together. I'm actually 100%. I will stand on this, okay? Because, all right, and then voice is or lightning is light. Let me get some of my notes too, where I wrote some of this down. Lightning, right, is the flash of light. So in thunder and lightning, we have, right, you have the light first. You have this huge display of, the electricity, the pure raw energy. See, this is where they're so brilliant in my mind, how they take nature. I mean, there's no way this is such a huge phenomenon that everyone in the whole earth has experienced. Huge thunder and lightning, where the lightning just opens up the sky, right? And we know that it is akin to fire, to energy, okay? So the light is the lightning, okay, which is, it's light, right? Coupled, and then a few seconds later, you always have the sound, the thunder, the voice. So first there's the flash of light, then a little bit later, you have the voice, the spoken, the sound. All right. So if we equate this on the Sephiroth, and then we're told here what's really interesting in Enoch, he's told by the angel. And although not one, although they're different, sound is sound and light is light, okay, they are inseparable. And it says that although they both go together through the spirit and are not separated. For when the lightning flashes, the thunder utters its voice. So there is a duality, there's a pairing up, there's a sense that these are inseparable, they have to go together. If you have lightning, you're going to have sound. All right. If you're going to, and we know that these relate to sound, which is light, voice and sound are the same. So that we know that, and let there be light, the first thing Yah said. Okay. But this is Hokmah. So if this is Bina, if Bina is the voice, is the sound of God, right? Hokmah, C-H-O-C-K. The light of God, the wisdom of God, all right, arrives first on the scene. And this is, again, gets into this idea of masculine and feminine. What comes first? The light, which we know is masculine, which we're told, and especially, you know, this on the tree of life. This is where, and so what I want, ultimately, my point is, because it came to me in Philo again, why they use male and female, and how we could be so liberated and exalted in our understanding if we would get this, take this out of parts. It has nothing to do with a female, you know, a literal male and a literal female on the Peshat level. You know, it has to do with this analogy that the Father's making between his light and his voice, which is ultimately spiritual. But he's taking this phenomena we all see in the whole earth, and he's equating it out. He's helping us. We're using it to help us to come up higher in our understanding, to apply wisdom, to apply knowledge. Okay. But the point is, when the lightning flashes, the thunder utter its voice, and the spirit causes a rest. Now, who do you think? Because causes a rest. See, this is, again, rest is akin to peace. It's usually people, when they're asleep, their rest, their peace, right? That's the point. And who do we know is our prince of, is the Prince of Peace? But what separate is known as peace? Of course, we know it's Tiferet. Okay, let's even put that here. Well, it is Tiferet. Okay. And divides equally between them. Okay, so the separation, and again, divides, separates equally between them. And this is another essence in the sense, it isn't like light's more important or sound is more important. They have to work together in unity to produce this rest. And then this rest divides equally between them. And then it goes on, for the treasury of their flashes is like sand. We won't even get into the sand thing. But I want you to just see this again. We are talking on the tree of life. Hokmah here, which we know is wisdom, which is the principal thing we're to start to get. And then Bina is understanding. This again is known as light. This is the side of light. This is the side of sound. By the time Yah flashed his light, he spoke. It came out in an understanding, in sound. Yah said, let there be light. Think of it like the greatest flash of lightning and peal of thunder that the universe has ever heard. And we're still hearing it. And we're still like recovering from it. We're still experiencing it. But so I wanted to just, okay, and then, you know, this will give us consequently a knowledge of truth. But this is, so these are our pillars again. What he's doing, he's talking about what's on the right side is light, what's on the left side is the sound, the voice of it. And then what's in the middle is the peace, all right, which we know Tiferet. Tiferet, the middle pillar is the great equalizer. It keeps everything in what? Other synonyms that go with peace would be harmony, would be balance. All right. So this is, so the Tiferet, so the middle pillar is, and Tiferet is the anchor for the middle pillar. Okay. And balances everything. Okay. So in my mind, we're seeing a complete picture of the tree of life. Now let's pull in two more understandings of this and see if we can put it together, so to speak. And let me go into verse 16, okay? It says, and the spirit of the sea is masculine and strong, and according to the strength of his power, he draws the sea back with the bridle, in his like manner as it pushed forward and scattered all in all the mountains of the earth. Now, again, it's hard for the modern mind to understand what's going on here. But as I read in Philo, the ancients, this is the ancient wisdom, we understood how these analogies were being used and the application. And one of the stronger ones is male and female, masculine energy. We have it right here. We have the spirit of the sea is masculine and strong. Okay. And then it goes on to all these other different angels. I had spoken about them. There's the angel of snow, of frost, of fog, of dew, of rain. But see, what it's really telling us in here is that these are all different states of energy that are producing different results. Like, okay, so like in the weather, if you have different combinations, if you've got a lot of precipitation and you've got rain clouds and you have a right temperature, and I think eventually you're going to have rain. I mean, that's the way it's set up. So again, these different angels speak of different energy states. See, this is what they're doing, and they're explaining it on a high spiritual level. And what they're saying is, with these balanced harvests, if you know, and ultimately it's saying, if you hear Torah, if you get the light of life, Torah, truth, absolute eternal unchanging truth, if you hear the voice of God, right, and if you apply it, it registers in your spirit. You apply it, you obey it, do the mitzvah. You're going to be doing this. I guess is what I'm saying. One of the things about the soul is trying to explain to people, how does God spirit work in the world? I mean, it's a legitimate question. All right. People are always saying, well, prove yourself to me. God, show yourself to me. And he's like, well, it's like he's already been showing it to you since you were a baby. But just look at the creation. All right. It's a complete template. It's a complete mimicker. It's a complete composite picture of Yah on these different levels. And that's what we have to learn. Okay. But I want to go over into chapter 61 and again, go back to this idea of the masculine and the feminine. Because it says, let me just, a couple things I want to, in chapter 61, see if you can track with me. But some of these clues, and let me tell you something, I don't completely understand this. This still is very archaic and dense. These were the archaic, dense, and hidden understanding. But I think I'm spot on in terms of how that it is being applied to the tree of life. And the more we can understand the relationship of the tree of life, the better we're going to figure out what Enoch's contribution is. Because again, I say it's been said that in the end times, the whole reason for Kabbalah, the whole reason for this level, the whole reason for studying at this level is because lo and behold, we're going to find out that true science, the way things really work, and the Torah have always been saying the same thing. You know, Yah doesn't change. All right. We maybe move away and come up with all sorts of, you know, empty cisterns that can hold no water, our own doctrinal theological understandings. But anyways, in 61:1, it says, in those days, long cords were given to those angels, and they took to themselves wings and flew and went towards the north. Now, one of the things, again, let me say again, angels, don't think of them as little cherubs. It's a code word for energies, spiritual energies, you know, the energy, our mind, our thoughts, our angels in the sense, our emotions, you know, our angelic energies and our nephesh, okay, are and run by angelic energies. You know, when you're hungry, that churning in your stomach, that whole process is a react of, it's sort of like you know, those pistons in the engine of your stomach are going off and telling you, you know, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry. These are processes that the Father has incorporated, but we're not on the nephesh level and we're not on the soul level, so to speak. The nephesh or the ruach, we're up here in the neshama, and because everything originates in the mind, right? This is the top, everything comes from top down, from God. God's at the top, And if he wants to, it's all coming down. Okay. We're at the bottom. So that's why we have to ascend up. It's a very simple formula. You know, child can understand that. But it says here that these angels went towards the north. Now, what do we know? It's code. What's in the north? What's Sephiroth? Because we're all in the tree. Like we're all really talking Sephirithically right now. Is Gevera, right? Which is right under. So we know this from our chart in direction, because Enoch speaks a lot about direction. And this is where he's coming from. The north we know is Gevera. I should have my little chart, you know, the cross that's laid out, you put it together. The north is equated with Gevera, which is equated with, which is right here. It's on the left side, and it is right under Bina. Okay, so we know. I mean, that's a code word that to tell you geographically. I said where you are. The Sephiroth of Gevera is judgment, and this is what it's sort of saying. You will get weighed. These angels, these different angels combinations, so to speak, energies you have flowing through your body, mind, soul, and spirit are being weighed and adjusted, but they're bringing you either blessings or judgment, depending on where your mind and emotions are, right? If you're full of hate, rage, and anger, and all these things, or if you're full of disappointment and melancholy and depression, these are all going to result in certain attributes. They're going to have, it's not, you're going to be depressed, right? If you're always looking at the negative, if your cup is always half empty and never, you know, you never see the blessing in anything, you're always in a complainy, you know, that's why we're not supposed to complain. And, you know, because it puts us in a state, it makes us susceptible to these angels that would like to pull us into, and I'm going to get into this, into their klippa and would like to steal or subvert, so to speak, our light that is inherent in us. So anyways, just wanted to say that towards the north would mean towards Gevera. But let's go down to chapter and verses. And the chosen will begin, and I think the better word here, and in chapter 61, verse 4, it says, and the chosen, now we're the chosen people, okay? So we know, talking about the righteous, the holy, the pious, the chosen, those who apply themselves to wisdom, will begin to dwell. And the chosen will begin, I think the word, it's not and, should be, will begin to dwell with the chosen. So the chosen will begin to dwell with the chosen. There's a coming together, just in that phrase. There's a coming together, there's a unification going on. And I think this alludes ultimately to how all the disparate understandings that we have about God, you know, the Christians think he said one thing, the Jews say he said another thing, so to speak. We will come together, and these measures will be given to faith and will strengthen the word of justice. See, again, those are all words that correspond to the separate, because the point is, it's like a car, you want to operate it on all pistons at all times. Okay, we want to be operating in all these Sephirothic attributes of Yahweh all the time. And the more we do, the more we're going to shine, right? Because he's light. And the more our voice as we speak will have impact and will have power to change everything around us, okay? Inside and in the outer world. But anyways, but faith is equated with Tiferet. That is the Sephiroth. That's why it says without faith, without that balance, or without Tiferet. And I will also say Tiferet is known as the Mashiach Sephiroth. This is, you know, and if this is a wheel, which a lot of times is equated to, and in other literature, they'll say it's like the hub of a wheel. This is like the center, the hub. These are all the spikes that come off the wheel. This is the center, okay? You can't, you know, and if it wasn't rooted, if these weren't rooted, or if they were broken off from the hub, the center, like that wheel would be all wobbly. It probably wouldn't even run in a circle, you know, do what it was supposed to do. It would be broken, dysfunctional, okay? We always have to operate out of faith. See, that's what they're saying. That's why those who, the just and the calm, we must have faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. So, and strengthen the word of justice, okay? Justice is another word. It's a middle pillar word. again, alluding to Tiferet, if you have perfect justice, and that's what Yahweh is about. He doesn't want us to be too far on one side, too far on the other, so heavenly minded, we're no earthly good. So by God and physicality, we never offer up a praise or a prayer. All right, you must have balance. You must be tapped in. All right, but then it goes on in 61:5, and it gives these, and these measures will reveal the secrets. Okay. Now, I can't fully flush this out, but I want you to see this because, again, everything is so filled with meaning. If you rush by it too fast, so to speak, or you don't have the key, but it says that it will reveal the secrets of the depths of the earth. Now, again, the depths of the earth, I'll just tell you this, because as we're going down, let's just bring up the chart again. I don't know why I couldn't have put it up here, but either way, I don't know if I put it over here. Well, I'm not going to listen with the board. Under Malkut, in the earth. So if this is where we are, the depths of the earth. We know that earth is the physicality down here. This is the nephesh. But the depths refers to the abysses. Remember, they say there's 7 earths. And 7 hells. There's different layers you can get. I mean, you can be so bad, like a Hitler or a Stalin or something. You're in the way down deep depths. You ain't coming out. Your soul is. Okay. Some of us, you can be a little closer to the surface, so to speak. There's different, I'm just saying there's different strata for different people, when you die, not everybody goes to the same hell. You're going to go to a hell that's akin to the level, so to speak, that you died at. Conversely, if you're blessed and you're going to ascend, you're going to ascend to the level, so to speak, that you attained. But so the depth, I just want to say the depths of the earth are the abysses. The abysses is where Sheol and all the different Hebrew words that are associated with the under the earth. Okay. Then it goes on at those who have been destroyed by the desert. Okay. Now, desert is akin to wilderness. It's one of those words. It's another geographic word. The desert is a place that is known, sort of outside of Yah's blessings, right? A desert doesn't get a lot of water. It doesn't have the balance, okay, necessary. And this is a word, I had to look it up one time. If you come upon it's in here, vivification. It is in the middle pillar that life, okay, there's another thing. Life is associated with the middle pillar. Unless you have that perfect balance, that perfect harmony, that in the end, ultimately, there will be no I think I just said the word and I forgot. Viviation, akin to vitality, but the word it's a kind of archaic word. We don't use it a lot, but it's used in the literature. So sometimes you got to look it up to figure out. If you come across a word you don't know what it means, look it up because it will completely change or give you the correct understanding. And what I want to say is the desert is akin to barren wasteland places without God, without the light of life, without the water of life, without, vivification. That's it. That will not ultimately produce life. And those who have been devoured by the fish of the sea. Now, fish is a word that's akin to, usually to demons, okay, to negative energy spirits. They live in a different dimension, right? Is the whole point. And in a few minutes, I'm going to bring up a little PowerPoint and show you how, demon and angel, how these are used. But so we have fish of the sea and by the beasts. Now, beasts, again, the beasts are animals. Beasts, and none of this is literal. Again, we're just trying to think deeply about what we see in the physical. So we've got depths of the earth. We've got areas that are under the earth, but not in a literal sense. We're speaking spiritually. So there are places that our soul can end up at that is going to be like under the earth. It's going to be like it's in the desert, totally unfruitful. It's going to be devoured by fish of the sea, total demonic possession by the beasts. Beasts are, it's a big category. Again, beasts are referred to, okay, so man and beast is constantly used in the Torah. Man and beast, man and beast, man and beast. That's a hint, Every time you see that, that's a hint. That is a total romantic. Like one of the places that first tipped me off was in, what's his name? Jonah, who was sent to preach repentance in Nineveh. And eventually it says that the king received his word and he called a national day of fasting and repentance. And it said in that day, both man and beast put on sackcloth and ashes. What a big hint. And I remember someone went, no animal's going to, of his own free will, go put on a sack of ash, sackcloth. They don't do that. So beast, what it's referring to is, again, we know the different species. It's humanoid, other races, but they're below Adam. Remember, and I said in the hierarchy of the animal kingdom, and this when we get into Enoch and the animal apocalypses, it'll become very apparent. You have people who are sons of God as Adamites, and then you have other sons, but they're equated with, different kind of beasts. Some domesticated cattle, which are pretty harmless and work with men. And then you have some what's called the wild beasts, these things, that will devour and are just, they're just going to make life miserable. So again, we always look to nature to try to understand, but the point is the beasts are animals and animal, like a little lower. It says Adam was made higher than all the other beasts, than all the other animals. Okay. And we're not in the Peshat level. We're not talking about, it's all on a spiritual hierarchy. The mind of Adam, the breath of God, which gave him a neshama soul, nobody else in the creation has. Okay. And they return and support themselves on the day of the chosen one. Now, this is an interesting, it says, for none will be destroyed before the Lord of spirits, and none can be destroyed. So in other words, these all represent different states of being and different energetic states of being. All right. But the point is, what I read in this, okay, for none will be destroyed. Doesn't matter if you are been devoured by the fish of the sea, if you're completely demon possessed, or you've been destroyed by the desert. You've just been living in the wilderness. A lot of us today feel like I'm living in the wilderness, right? That's what we're talking about, the famine of the word, right? That's why when people come to Torah and start to get these oil, it's like, wow, all of a sudden you feel like you're getting fed for the first time, right? But no soul will be destroyed. Ultimately, the Father will redeem everything. None can be destroyed. This is the point. Energy, this is what we know from nature, right? Energy cannot be destroyed. There's never going to be any more energy in the universe. There's never going to be any less. It just changes its state of being. Okay. And we see that that kind of repeated. But this verse would lend a lot to people who want to have the theory or have the theology that ultimately the Father will redeem everything. Okay. Now you'll have some other, their counter arguments, but that's not the focus of today. So, and then one received a command, all who dwell in the heights of heaven, and all right, and then received a command, all who dwell in the heights of heaven. And the heights of heaven, these truly are talking about energies, which is always angels. See, this is the, we got to understand, we just got to, these are energy states of being that are filled with the thunder and the lightning and thunder of Yah, right? And they're going forward, they're going to accomplish something, but they're still in the heights of heaven. And so in heaven, it's like either things are too far away for us to really get there, like the stars and the sun and the moon, whether we were there or not. But when they're too far away, you can sort of see them, but you can't actually experience them or truly investigate them like you could under a microscope, like we could something in the terrestrial realm. So that's first of all. Now, but it says here that there is one power, one voice, one light, which is like the fire was given to him, because light, really, you think of raw energy. It isn't even, I'll tell you, Kabbalistically at this level, we're not even talking about the light of the sun. See, you understand, hierarchically, the sun was created on the fourth day. That can't possibly be the highest light of God, because we're told that on the first day, he said, let there be light. So there is a light that's higher than the light of the sun created on the fourth day. I hope you see that. Again, we're always talking hierarchy, all right, which translates is important because it just helps you to know how solid. Okay, well, I don't want to go there because I don't think I'm ready to expound on that totally yet right now. But the point I want you to is there's one power, one voice, and one light, which again goes back to our original. Remember, these are the upper waters. This is, and he made a separation between this upper level waters or this level of understanding and what he created down here, Zeron Pin. So for man who we live in here, in order for us to ascend or to receive or to get up to these higher levels of God understanding, this is why he gave his people these a Torah, which will help them to do it, by getting this knowledge. Okay, but this refers to, again, you have one power, one voice, and one light. We know the light is Chokmah. We know the voice is Bina. So then we got to ask, okay, what is the one power? Okay, well, ultimately, the one power is Keter, the head, the crown, the first point of God. This is Keter means point. It's another one of its code words, but really, I was like, Keter is the point of the whole thing. Right? I mean, bottom line, it's what we all want. What is the point of this whole thing? Well, when you can get, but he knows that we can't really get up to the level of Keter. That's too sublime. But the point, the power is Tiferet. Tiferet is the one power. Because again, remember we are talking about this, and these are four legs, as it says, the Tiferet. Okay, and again, if you have that one power, we're coming down again. We're always coming down into physicality, but you're going through Yesed, you're going into Malkut, but you are going through these energies on these sides have to come into harmony and balance, and they have to come down properly through the middle pillar. They're inseparable. That's why, the Shema prayer is so important. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is one. This is all one big package deal. Okay, don't separate it. Don't start worshiping just the voice of God. Don't start worshiping the angels on this side. It's all one big deal, but it's important. It's all coming down, and eventually we will all get to the place where we represent in physicality the complete total package deal of Yah in light. So our light and our voice are in complete. His will be done on earth code for us, in us, as it is in heaven. So I just want to say that I see all of Paul's theology, because I do want to tell you this is completely repeated in Ephesians 4:5. And Paul is getting this when he's talking about there's one body. He doesn't pull Enoch 61:6 mentions three of them: power, voice, and light, which now we can relate to on the tree of life. Ephesians 4:5, Paul, again, as I've always said, being the master Kabbalist he is trying to tell us in this new faith walk we're coming into, believe me, it's all one. It's one body of Christ, okay? There's not a million different denominations, split little gods out there. There's one body of God. There's one spirit. He is one. Heroically, he's a had. It doesn't mean one in numerically as much as one in unity. It all works together. As we were told in the first verse I was using in Enoch, they're inseparable. They're doing processes, they're doing things, but ultimately their goal, they're inseparable. Okay. And then he says there's one hope, there's one Lord, there's one faith, there's one baptism, there's one God, there's one Father. All right. And these you relate, these are all on the separate. You could say the Father is Keter. He is known as the Father of all. All right. We know the one body. Paul talks about it. We're made of the one body of Christ. In Jewish nomenclature, it's called Adam Kadmon. Okay. It's known, Paul talks about it as the first Adam. Okay. And the second Adam. All right. And these are all talking on higher levels of the totality of the separate. All right. But you can figure out one Lord. That would probably be Tiferet. And one Lord, also, we're told that ultimately the Archangel Michael, and that's one of the huge coded secrets that Paul figured out, is that this Archangel Michael is the ultimate original Son of God, the salvation of all. So there's not everything is stated in these chapters. You got to have a broad, this is what Paul says, in order to put it all together, you got to have breadth, width, depth, and height. 4 direction, you got to have depth, you got to have height, you got to have width and breadth. You put that out, that's the cross we put, that is the 4 quadrants of all, okay, reality. You put it together. So to me, I don't think that Enoch is at all weird. I think once you can start to pin it on the tree of life, it makes sense. And I think it's really important today to have this understanding, because ultimately it's going to be telling us, and as we're realizing today, everything we say, everything we think, everything we do, how connected it is and how it does, and corporately as humankind, how it's creating our reality. Okay. And today we live in a time where like nobody knows Torah. I mean, seriously, we are such a small minority people, you know, we're the elect, we're the remnant, you know, nothing's going to wipe us out. There's no way we're going to, you know, the enemy is going to overpower and take us out. He can keep our numbers from, you know, but ultimately we will survive. We will be sustained by the separatic energies, powers of God. Okay, but I want to make one more last about these angels of frost. You know, again, he's saying fog and frost and hail. Nothing literal, but what we're trying to say, if you think about it, those are all weather patterns that are weather patterns that are in our physical reality, but they're different. You know, hail is hail, rain is rain. Frost is frost, but you can still see they're made up of water, which again, this side of, you know, lightning is also akin to water. This side is akin also to fire. And that's why in a lot of times, if you read in the literature, they'll talk about angels that are made of fire and water, because they're talking about, again, combinations of things coming together to make something very unique and very special. That has a job. But I want to go down here to verse 61:10. It says, then will cry all the host of heaven, of the heavens, and the holy ones above, and the host of God. And he missed cherubim, seraphim, ophanim, all the angels of power, all the angels of supremacies, and the chosen one, and the other powers on the earth, above the water. And on that day, they will raise one voice and will bless and glorify and praise and exalt in the spirit of faith and in the spirit of wisdom and of patience and in the spirit of mercy and in the spirit of judgment and of peace and in the spirit of goodness. And they will all say with one voice, blessed be he. Blessed is he, and blessed is the name of the Lord of the spirits in eternity and to eternity. See, we are going to come into this. Now, first, 2 things I want to say about this. When you see the word host, you have to understand those are armies. A lot of times they're called armies. But we think of this today. Armies, I mean, armies fight. They're very, but they do things. They're sent out. You sent out an army to accomplish something. These angels are his servants. All right. These are his energies that he is very purposely and willing and willfully sending out to do things. But what I want you to see in all this really is, because I did a series on angels, and in the literature of all this, they always come up with a list of 10 different strata of angels that are talked about. And it equates to, again, there's 10 separate. So there's 10 different angelic energies that are, like, say, the master key. We know that there are under each one of these, and then there's myriads and myriads and myriads under each one, which means thousands. Myriad means thousands. So there's thousands, an innumerable multitude. But ultimately, you have these angels of heaven, and we know cherubim, seraphim, and ophanim, those are common, okay? But we don't sometimes pick up on what the angels of power. I told you what the angel of power. It comes from the Sephirah of Tiferet. It talks about the angels of supremacies. Okay, these are all akin, and I'd have to really study that a little more to try to plug them in. But some of them are obvious and we've already done. But it says the chosen one and the other powers on earth above the water will raise one voice and will bless. And this is the culmination of what he's been doing for his people. We will hold together and become a whole creation, corporately and individually, where all these powers of Elohim, we will totally manifest the perfection and the brilliance and the power that God originally intended, all right, for his creation. It will come to pass. And what will we do? We will praise his name. We will say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, all right? Again, I see no theological contradiction to what we understand in the New Testament. The New Testament believer, we really need to go back, in my opinion, and understand the bigger picture, the foundation that's been laid, and how all this is being used. Because Enoch is a book for us today. That's what it says. It says it in the very first verse of the book of Enoch, that this is for the chosen, the just, and the elect who will be alive in the last days, just before the chosen one comes. Okay, so, but now let me just do one last thing too. I want to say I have two little PowerPoints of what I found out in Philo, which was so interesting because Philo had this total understanding. He wasn't making anything up. But let me just share this. I can pull that up real quick. All right. So this one. And let's go to slideshow so it gets a little bigger. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry, did the wrong thing. Right here. Okay. This is again from the works of Philo. Interesting on the giants. So right again there, the fact of giants is not made up. I mean, if Philo 2,000 years ago was fully privy to this, then we're the ones that are getting up to speed again and understanding that there are giants in the earth. Then, now, let me just read this. So, do you not see that in the universe, which is also the sun, being one body or one entity, the sun is by its shining forth, dissipates the thick and dense darkness which is shed over the earth and the sea, right? That's a no-brainer, right? Light dispels darkness. With great propriety, therefore, the generation of the just Noah, and his sons is represented as bringing into existence a great number of unjust persons. For it is by the contrary that is especially the nature of contraries to be known. But basically what I pull out of that is, again, after the judgment of the flood, Noah, who came through with his sons, all right? But unfortunately, what we realize is that what I call was damage control. Yahweh really reduced the influence of the giants on mankind, but he didn't eliminate them. So it is, they're still produced unjust people, wicked people were still being produced by the sons of Noah and their progeny. Then it says in verse 4, and no unjust man at any time implants a masculine generation in the soul, but such, being unmanly and broken and effeminate in their minds, do naturally become the parents of female children, having planted no tree of virtue, the fruit of which must of necessity have been beautiful and salutary, but only trees of wickedness and of the passions, the shoots of which are womanlike. Okay, now to me that's pure gold, because again, and it says on account, let's read the whole thing, on account of which, whoopsie, where did it go? Sorry about that. On account of which these men are said to have become the fathers of daughters, and that no one of them is said to have begotten a son. For since the just Noah had male children, as being a man who followed reason, perfect and upright, if I can get rid of that. I don't know how to get rid of that. I hope you guys can see through that. The same thing should be born of go up here. Let's see. As being a man who followed reason, perfect and upright and masculine. So by this very fact, the injustice of the multitude is proved to be altogether the parent of female children. For it is impossible that the same thing should be born of opposite parents, but they must of necessity have an opposite offspring. Now, what are they talking about? Okay, so this is what I gleaned. This is what I want to share. Again, we're not talking about physical gender, men and women. This is how the male and the female on its highest and most sublime levels and the most necessary to understand first, so you don't fall into the trap of fundamentalism, is how they're talking about male and female energies, okay? Because it talked about a masculine generation. And in that verse in verse 16 of verse 60, I believe it is, in 16, it says, and the spirit of the sea is masculine and strong. Okay, so here we see that there. And then here in Philo, he's talking about masculine and feminine again. So masculine energy, this is the point, it is equated with the mind of reason. All right. When Yah said that he does not change, okay, that Torah is eternal. It doesn't change. In other words, a lie is a lie. Okay, you can't, I mean, you can say, well, it was a white lie, or I did it for preservation, or whatever. It doesn't change the fact. A lie is a lie. There are certain inalienable truths that never change. And it's born in reason, okay? As opposed to, which is equated with the masculine. Because the reason it's important to understand, because there's in my opinion, two verses that come to mind that unless you really understand it, because the translations don't really give it to you, what's going on. Paul talks about, and he even says it's a great mystery, why the man is the head of the house, or is the head of the woman. Okay, again, hierarchy. The masculine energy, Chokmah, came first, before the light came first, before the sound. That's the way God set it up. So the feminine is in a secondary position. Okay, it's not a slight on women. See, and then you don't also, because we all have. Remember, there's no separation. It's the way he did it. He separated and made them male and female, but then he brought them together and made them one. In the offspring. So we all have male and female, but our masculine part of us is a part of us that we're supposed to operate from, which is called the world of reason. Okay. The feminine is known as the world of our ruach, our emotion state. Our emotion, it says, are unstable. It changes. Okay, constantly. Our mood can, all right. It's not the same as reason. Our emotions, while beautiful and having great necessary parts to it, you really can't, when you praise and worship Yahweh with your whole heart, we're told, okay, it's not that it's inherently evil, but it does have in the hierarchy, a lower place. Okay, you start with reason is the masculine, because reason does not change. God does not change. His truth is his truth, and it stays the same. Now, the feminine is akin to this lower level of understanding, which is more ruled by the emotions, okay? Because there's a very famous verse and I think it's in Isaiah, but it might be in Jeremiah. It talks about in the last days, or when things get really crazy and topsy-turvy, it says that, and women will rule over them. And most people, fundamentalists, say, women aren't supposed to have any roles of authority. Women aren't supposed to rule. Women, yada, yada. But it's not talking about that. It's talking about the sense you never put your passions, your emotions, your perception, because we never see like God sees everything. We only see in part. Even Paul, we prophesy and we know in part, above the reason. Okay. So just understand that it's lower level, nothing, if you're ruled by your passions, it's always considered to be a lesser form, produce a lesser level than if you're ruled by reason. Okay. So understand that this is what I want to say. So what he's saying here no one implants a masculine generation in the soul. Let me put it this way. If you are ruled by your lower level, your lower nature, you are going to produce a fruit which is by nature of a lesser quality. And it is akin to, it can go very quickly into wickedness. All right. And we know that. And it says here that only trees of wickedness and of the passions, the shoots of which are womanlike. So I want to say is on account of that fact, it are said to have become the fathers of daughters. So what they're saying is a generation can either produce woman-like, which is what we see today. Everybody's ruled by their passions. Oh, and are their feelings, oh, I don't feel like a woman, I don't feel like, so I'm going to change. I'm going to change the reason, the reality, the ultimate, which God made us male. And I'm going to change it because I feel a certain way. Okay. So if that's the ruling, and that's the way everybody is today. If it feels good, do it. If it feels, emphasis on the word feels, not if it is good, not sound judgment, reason, it's already established, but if you feel it. So that means you're going to have trees, which trees are people. Others say you're going to have individuals all over the earth that are full of wickedness and are ruled by their passions. And it's exactly what we see today. And that's exactly what the prophets were saying in the last days. Everybody is going to be ruled by their passions. Everybody's going to be ruled by how they feel. Nobody's going to be ruled by the absolutes of Torah. And that's what we see today. And that will cause a great breakdown of the stability. Passions are not stable. Okay. So I just want to show this contrast because this is a really important understanding. And the Ruach is equated with the feminine. That's why she is called a she in the early literature, in the Hebrew. Okay, the female, the left side is always equated as a she. This is the archetype that's been established. Okay, we can't change it. We don't have business changing it. They change the translations. This is something, if you want to do this, and it's documented. It started out in the Hebrew. The Ruach is Lady Wisdom, calling everybody, calling is to do with voice, sound. She says her sound, her voice. Being at this level of understanding goes out into all the earth, and anybody who wants to pick up that signal, you can. But this is so and I know I get tongue tied because it's somehow hard to put out there, but I know that this is the truth. So it is impossible that the same thing should be born of opposite parents. But what it is so passion will produce a female spirit result, okay, which is unstable, which is not what God wants us to base our truth on. Okay, he wants us to base it on the masculine, which is unchanging, which is the highest level of the template. Okay, and it will produce virtue. We know that's what the Torah tells us. If we keep these mitzvahs, if we walk in his ways, if the light of Torah fills our actions, we will be children of the living God. All right. And we will not be producing quote unquote female children, but we are today. Everybody's being, listen, my kids, I listen to sometimes the things they say, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the level of people being ruled by their personal passions and perceptions, all born out of their own ego and what the God of this world is filling them, versus those that are being motivated and acting out of truth that's been established. So I just want to say, I guess that is what's going on. Okay. I don't know if I did the best job in the world, but I think you kind of get it. Let me go to one more here. We got to do this. Let me go to the next slide. Where do I find the next slide? How do I get out of this? All right, let's stop that share. Let me go back to it. And let me go back to here. And let me go to this one. Now, here's a couple more quotes I found, which I just think are very interesting, okay? And this one reads, those beings, now this is interesting, those beings whom other philosophers call demons, Moses usually calls angels. And again, we need to clear this up because, and they are souls hovering in the air, okay? Now, and let no one suppose that what is here stated is a fable, for it is necessarily true that the universe must be filled with living things in all of its parts. You know, God is life. This is the whole point. There's nothing dead in all the universe. Everything is alive. He vivifies. That's that word. He makes alive everything. But demons are usually equated with the negative energy that can come, like the passions. Like a lot of times, that's why on the left side, you know, if you have women, quote unquote, that rule over you, and you're in a culture where, in an archetypal sense, you're being ruled by passions. Okay, these passions hover in the air, and that's akin to, again, in this idea of sephirific dimensions, because it says, like, if we could, they know that the air is full of stuff. Okay, unfortunately, we just can't see it. We just see air, but we don't see what's in the air. It's veiled from us, okay? But again, it's angels. So angels on the good side, angels, like somebody put it this way, angels that are coming from Yah for blessing are angels. The same kind of angelic, meaning these are unseen forces on the left side, are called demons. Okay, so, but they're still the same level of incorporeal and spiritual energies. Okay. For these also, in the next little paragraph, for these also are entire souls pervading the universe. Again, souls, demons, angels, a lot of people do this is all kind of speaking of the same thing. Which is a more incorporeal. When I use the word incorporeal, I mean it's not invested with complete physicality. All right. So like I said, we know that there's stuff in the air. We know that sunlight is being transmitted in the air, but you're never going to put sunlight under a microscope like we do something on the terrestrial level. But it is necessary that air should be full of living things because Yah is life, and these beings are invisible to us in so much as the air itself is not visible to mortal sight. So that's just kind of saying what I have been trying to say. And the last one here, these then are the souls of those who have been taught some kind of sublime philosophy, meditating from beginning to end undying as to the life of the body, in order to obtain an inheritance of the incorporeal and imperishable life, which is to be enjoyed in the presence of the uncreated and everlasting God. In other words, ultimately, that's why it says we will become spiritual beings first again. We will get really connected to the head again. We will operate from this level of masculine. We will operate from this level of incorporality, of imperishable life, because Yah is like at the highest level, okay? But it doesn't negate the fact that there will be still lower level things. Like I do believe that there will be a new heaven and earth. There will be an earth with a physicality that we can all enjoy, which will be wonderful, without these wild beasts of the field where we have to be afraid. But the thing that in the takeaway of this is that true philosophy and meditating on it from beginning to end, dying to the life of the nefesh, not including the nefesh in this right here, will obtain for us an inheritance, incorporeal and imperishable, which then this is what we will enjoy in the presence of the everlasting and uncreated Yah himself. Okay, so I just thought that these quotes from Philo really helped me put together kind of what Enoch, and confirm what Enoch is saying, how he's using this language. This is the ancient wisdom. This is the foundation that was already laid. This is the understanding we need to come back to. So I hope you guys can do something with that. I just think, again, it's very interesting. It's fascinating. And to me, it makes perfect sense with what I know of quote unquote reality, physically and spiritually. So to me, the prophets, the philosophers, the sages, and the understanding I have, we're all on the same page. I don't see any contradictions. I don't see any need to throw this book out, throw that baby out with the bathwater. I don't see any need for that. Enoch can easily be incorporated into and give us the higher level understanding we need to transcend this feminine assault on us. And I'm not digging women. I'm telling you, we've got to get to this place of the unchangingness of God and not be ruled by our passions and our emotions, which I'm telling you what the enemy is just brilliant at. What can I say? So on that note, shalom, shalom. Have a great Shabbat. I will see you soon in all the videos next week. God bless.